please excuse. I had a mole and I caught it. But anyway, I'm up early. I was stuck in bed all day yesterday and in a lot of pain. I've planted a few bulbs, some crocosmias, and I also planted some strawberry bunches in for my neighbours so that they didn't go to waste. So they've got nice stuff in the garden. I did that the other day. And then weather came and pain came and I've just not done anything. My situation, which is really difficult for me to talk on because it involves where I work, has put me in a position where I'm not currently at work. But communication is a bit iffy at the moment. There's a lot of stalling. I've basically gone down the whistleblowing route, and I've had to call the police a couple of months back because of stalking. Stalking is one of the main problems, but there's also a bunch of other stuff going on. And it's not safe for me to be at work because of the bullying and harassment and intimidation and job loss threats and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, that's why I've been off work quite a lot since January, in fact. This started around 2-3 years ago. I want to just make that clear. I have done everything in my power to try and get this sorted, but it's been escalating, and it's now put me in a position where I am still contracted, but for my own well-being and safety, I am off. And there's a lot of investigating and talking, and it sees me sitting and waiting a lot. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I am being pushed towards suffering financially. So work will cover you for so long, but then that drops. So as a result of me raising these issues and the investigation taking long to complete, I am now suffering financially as well as health and everything else, right? So I have to prepare for that because I'm not backing down, right? I have to prepare for that. I have food in. I always keep a stock of everything. My medications, my vitamins, toiletries, cleaning supplies, toilet roll, wash powder, everything you could possibly need. I normally keep a supply in. I keep lots of variants of each thing as well, so that, you know, there's always something somewhere. But that only lasts so long. Given the current climate as well, things are going to get expensive. So I am going to, I have already pre-prepared myself for having days where I won't be able to eat. Not because I don't want to, but because I need to make food stretch. Literally, that's where I'm at this point. So I practiced fasting the other day. It's good to do it anyway, because you never know what's going to happen and you need to get your body adjusted. So I did 45-hour fast, and then I gave in because my mum had brought some blackcurrant Bakewell tarts. And I was desperate for them. I just wanted them. I was starving. But yeah, I've started fasting already on purpose to make food stretch. Okay, I have food. So I have a fridge, I have 2 freezers, I have loads of cupboard space and a pantry. But that does not mean that it is full. it doesn't mean that any of those are full. In fact, I've just finished one freezer and I've turned it off. So I've moved the last little bits out of it into one freezer, and then I've turned that off to conserve energy because energy prices are going up. So I'm on one freezer, and I do have some canned stuff, and I do have some dried goods, and I do have some baking stuff. I have things, and I already anticipated. I can't have normal milk, so I bulk bought a load of Alpro almond milk, and put it in the pantry ready, just in case. Despite the fact that I am not to have milk, I also bought milk powder because that lasts longer. So all of these are long life and they don't need to be in the fridge. That's another reason I buy these things. I always think of things that can be stored in the pantry long term. I've always operated that way. So is my mum, so is my mama. I've got things, but it will only go so far. You know, at some point you have to consume it. So I am now at the point where I am going to be fasting 1 or 2 days a week, probably at the weekends, to preserve food and make sure that it stretches, because I won't be able to buy any, right? I've got to get some stuff paid off. I am desperate to remortgage, and again, I can't do any of this whilst this stuff's going on at work. I am kind of stuck in limbo and suffering as a result. So obviously I've got to take this further. More work for me to do. I love that. I wasn't going to do my veg this year because I thought this would be resolved by now. I thought I'd be back at work. I thought I'd be earning my full wage and, you know, stocking up as much as I can like everybody else. But that's not happening. And I've worked out how long I could potentially stay off work, and I've worked out my budget with full pay and half pay, and how long I can go without, and what the months are going to look like. I am dead good at this kind of stuff. Remember, I've talked to you before about almost being homeless, stuck on a bunch of medications, courtesy of doctors, about to lose my house during COVID. So I've already done all this. I am pretty good at being self-sufficient, and all through that period I was growing my own food and I was weaning off my medications, and I actually got myself back on track and went back to work and got a mortgage whilst we were still in COVID. So I used the opportunity to do as much as I could within my power to get ahead of the game. So I will still be able to pay things off. I will still be able to move towards remortgage. I will still be able to, at some point, we're looking late August, buy food, right? So I need my food to last, because that's 4 months. 3 months, 4 months, right? So I've got to prepare. This means that all my plans kind of get pushed back, because obviously you do necessities, obligatories, things to survive first, right? So all the stuff that's not as important, like finishing pergola, finishing pond, materials for that stuff, it goes on back burner. It's not important. Living is important, right? Surviving is important. I am lucky enough that I've stocked up on my vitamins, my supplements, my pain relief, everything. I've done everything already. I'm pretty good at staying ahead. I usually stock up about a year before, half a year to a year before I need it. So I always make sure I've got stuff here. I never know if I'm going to be able to leave the house because of my disabilities. I never know whether I'm going to be stuck in bed. So it's dead important for me to prep anyway. I'm always in that mode. But again, like I've said, eventually things run out. You can't survive on supplements alone, on vitamins alone. I am lucky enough that I have fruit bushes and fruit trees, and I have some veg in the garden already, and it's natural stuff. So it's stuff that grows wild that I don't need to do anything with. Okay, so I have got my wild garlic at the moment. I wasn't going to harvest that. I was going to leave it and plant it and let it spread. I'm actually going to be harvesting it because I'm going to need it. So I'm going to harvest it. It's not a lot, and then I'm going to put it in dehydrator and dry it and powder it, and then at least I've got a bit of flavour to add to the most boringest meals when the time comes, right? Because I need to just tell you this. When you stuck on bread and rice and beans, right, yes, you can survive on it, but it is going to mentally break you if you don't have flavours, right? It's going to break you. Yeah, and I know this because I've done it. I've already had to do it. You need those flavours. You need some sort of flavour, right? You need some sort of fat. You need some sort of salt, vinegar even. It's dead important. So I've got vinegars in, I've got salt, I've got seasonings, I always make sure to have stock and gravies and chutneys. Chutneys are fucking great for flavours. You don't need a lot to add a bit of flavour. So I've always got a lot of stuff in like that, because otherwise your mental well-being is going to rapidly decline if you don't have these nice little things, these nice little oddments to keep your spirits up, right? So my plan here on out, I have budgeted full pay and half pay for all the way until the end of the year, right? Just to see what I can deal with and what I can't. I am lucky enough that because of where I work, I know what I can and can't do to help myself when it comes to my bills, right? So I know who I need to speak to and what I need to do to make sure that I get support if I start to struggle, right? Not many people know that. You don't know unless someone tells you. I am lucky enough that I work in a job where I've been trained to know this stuff to help other people. So I am now going to be helping myself with that same information. If I need to, at least. I won't be doing it premature. I never do. You can't do it premature. They're not going to take anything into consideration unless you are on your fucking knees. Given the government that we have right now, they don't look kindly to disabled people. They don't look kindly to people who's not doing as they're told, even if it's wrong. And they're not about to give handouts to just anybody. So there's, the ones that suffer are the ones that are already suffering. You need to remember that. The ones at the bottom who are already suffering, they end up suffering the most. Anyway, that's my circumstance. That's where I'm at. The stalking thing is happening in and out of work. It is someone at work. There's a larger problem involving lots of people, and it's been going on for years. This has been escalating, and I've finally gone down the whistleblowing route. There's a lot of reluctancy to fix things, and a lot of stalling, and that is going to see me financially suffer very shortly. And I am prepared for that. I have prepared for that. I will not be backing down. Not one bit. I've got all the evidence that I need. In fact, this is just mounding on top of the evidence that I've already got, and it's not going to end well if it goes down to tribunal. It's not going to end well for them. Let me put it that way. So that's not a threat. That's factual reality. When I present this stuff to a tribunal, I just need to make that disclaimer because people are watching me. It's not a threat. It's facts. Anyway, it's the process. Anyway, I wasn't going to grow my veg because I was going to focus on getting some big projects done and completed, and do my veg next year when I've bought all the correct equipment and what have you, and get ready for it. However, I see myself in the same position that I was in during COVID, which is being very short on money, needing to pay bills and not having enough money for food, and being faced with bland meals or no meals at all. Okay? And this is why it's dead important. This is why it's dead important to make sure that you've got barrels of water and a way to process it to make sure it's safe to clean, that you've got a way of getting food without having to pay for it. And what I mean by is shop prices, right? Because they're fucking shooting up again. Okay? What does that look like? Well, you make sure that you've got a stock of seeds and you've got your fruit bushes and fruit trees and plants in your garden that grow on their own, that are edible, and you can chuck in your veggies as well and get those growing as well. Okay? You can do it without all the equipment. I am lucky enough that I compost. I've got about 6 pots of compost, big ones, big bins full. So I live like it's wartime all the time. That's the way I've been brought up. When you're poor, you become very self-sufficient and you learn very quickly not to rely on your government for the resources you need to stay alive. Okay? So I also have ways of keeping myself warm that doesn't rely on electric or gas. I've got self-heating things. I've got electric stuff for when I can use it. I've got hot water bottles and that type of thing. I've got thermal clothing. I've got fleece-lined clothing. I've got a fucking million blankets. You wouldn't believe how many blankets I've got. I could open up my own shop. I can tell you that. Everyone laughs at me. And they always keep buying me blankets. I got all the blankets. Food. I don't have the frames for my beans. I don't have the frames. I've just got rid of all my wood that I'd usually use as canes and what have you, because, put it this way, I've been using them for about 8 years. They've rotted. So I've had to get rid of them all. I've got like 4 left, which will get me so far, but not that far. They're all branches that I've cut from my own trees, from neighbours' trees hanging over. When I've had to cut stuff, it's always good to keep them because they're nice and long. Off my own new tree at bottom, they're great. They're really nice and flexible as well. Really, really nice to work with. That's another thing. Make sure that you've got trees in your garden and that they're quite big. Stop cropping them to the point where they're fucking useless. You might need the wood at some point. Okay? So let them grow, right? Anyway, I will probably take a few more branches off my yew tree, the lowest ones, because he's getting taller now, so I can take some more front bottom underneath. And just make sure I've got enough really big canes, because I'm going to need those. But I've got a supply of wire mesh, coil wire, garden string, zip ties. What else have I got? I've got white fabric sheeting. I've got tarpaulin. I've got lots of stuff that I can use to build what I need. Okay? Is it ideal? No. Do I have pots and stuff? Yeah. Is it ideal? Not really. It's not. I like as a Virgo, I like optimal conditions. I want it to be as best as it can be and have the bestest setup. In the real world, that's not practical. In the real world, you have to use what you've got. So you have to get good at it. Okay? And I'm very fucking good at that as well. Being a Virgo, I like to be the best. I'm also my moon's Aquarius. My communication, my Mercury is Gemini, which is the right place for it, and my heart is Leo. So I've got things in the right places to be the fucking best if I want to be. I'm allowed to brag. Sometimes you've got to big yourself up. Anyway, I emptied a couple of my compost barrels the other day, and I was just looking to see what I've got going on in there. Let all the birds come down. They've been playing around me. They think I can chase them and join in. I can't. I've got no wings. But I've got all the babies following me around, and robins and all the baby sparrows and what have you, and all the blue tits and great tits coming to see what I'm doing and get all the goods out of there. I was going to bag up the compost and start fresh, so I was going to bag it up, take it to the tip, and start afresh because it's not the best compost. I'll be honest with you, it's not. However, given circumstances, compost is compost. I've just cleared all that space where the shed was to do my veggies, so I'm going to use the wood that I've got, and as my channel states, I do knit, which means I've got an endless supply of wool, right? I have, and I am good at arm knitting to make your own mesh for things to climb on. I've also got my chunky ones. These aren't my chunkiest, but they're big enough. So I can, in theory, use my wire mesh for my veggies that are growing on the floor, like cabbages and stuff, to make sure that they're covered and they don't get pecked at, because my pigeons will have it, and just make sure that they're enclosed and sorted. But I would still need extra mesh for my beans to grow up. Most people would just do like a washing line with some extra strings hanging off for beans to grow up. I need maximum capacity, maximum yield. So what I normally do is use my string, use my wool. All that wool there is wool that I won't use because it's just odd colours. You don't use it as regular. So, and it was, I think most of it was gifted to me. Yeah. So it's not, I'm not going to use it, so I can use it for mesh. And that gives more space for things to grow and more yield, basically. So I will be doing loads of washing lines with loads of mesh on for all my beans and peas to grow up. Okay. I am lucky because we are coming into we're coming to middle to end of when I can actually sow my seeds, my veggie seeds. So all my flowers is doing what they're doing. They can go out early, they're fine. But my veggies need to be done now or by end of May. So I am doing it. I'm going to do it because it's fail safe and it's extra food that I wouldn't otherwise have had. And it may get me through these later months where I've got no food or very little food, and just fill the gap a bit just to keep me going till I can afford food again. Okay. By the time my food starts getting really low is when I'm going to be able to start harvesting. Some of the best crops are cabbage, lettuce, spinach beet, spinach, rocket, beans, peas, all your different types of beans. So your runner beans, green beans, your French beans, broad beans, peas, all of those, they do fantastic. I have no issue with those any time. Rocket, never have no issues. Chicory, never have any issues. So, also, my cow parsley is coming in, and I've got loads of cow parsley. You can actually eat cow parsley. It's called wild parsley, cow parsley. Every bit of it is edible. Please don't get it mixed up with hemlock or what's the other one? There's another one. It's fucking bad. It's bad for you. Don't fucking mess. Look, if you don't know what cow parsley is, don't be touching it. Luckily enough, I know what it is, and I've got loads. So I can harvest that as well, which I didn't want to do because the birds like going in for the bugs and what have you, but there's more than enough for me to take some out of there. I could take all the bit where I'm going to eventually have a greenhouse anyway, so I can pare it down a bit. I'm now going to plant all my veggies. I'm going to keep the compost, even though it's not the best. I am going to put them in all my spare pots, put them all in, put water, whilst I've got my seeds inside the buckets outside full of compost that's not totally rotted yet. I will cover over with bin liners, make them wet in there, so that they mulch down fast. With the heat, with them being wet and covered, they'll mulch down faster. So I would do that and get it to rot faster. And then by the time that I need to take my seeds out, it should be, it's not going to be perfect. It's not even going to be the best, but it will be good enough for me to put stuff in. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to redirect the work that I'm doing. I've also found that one of my water butts, the tap has become loose and it's leaking. So I need to get that fixed because I don't really want to lose one of my water butts. It's really important we have water, especially if we get warm and we go into a drought and we're not allowed to use water and we can't use the taps and the hose, and I need that water there for my food. I'm going to need it for my food and to drink. I'm lucky enough that I've got a distiller to clean my water. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do. Why am I talking about this? Because it's really important that people understand that life can still go on and you can still be resourceful and you can still use your brain and use what you've got, okay? There's lots of free stuff out there that you can have, that you can take. Have a look on free marketplaces. Are they getting rid of string, mesh, slabs, compost, spare compost, wood, seeds? You put up that you need those things and people will give them to you for free if you can't find them. Or you can ask when someone's putting it up and go get it. That's how I did it through COVID. So they would leave it outside for me to go get. And whilst I was weaning off my medications and I was in a lot of pain and trying to rehabilitate myself, I would then go pick these things up. I don't have a vehicle, I don't drive. I would go get them or have them drop them off. And then when they'd left or they weren't there, then I'd go out and go get them, basically. And either they brought it to me or I'd walk home with it. Okay? You can do it. You can do it. You can do it with little to nothing. You've just got to be very clever on how you do stuff. I want to just tell you a few things that you need to know when it comes to dairy and meat, because usually we have dairy out the fridge at shops and meat out the fridge at shops and freezers, okay? That's eventually going to start disappearing, okay? Those are the things that people go for first. Eggs being another one. My tip on this, and this is my ingenuity coming into play, showing you how good I am. Yes, I'm being big-headed. You can't keep eggs long life. You can buy freeze-dried eggs, but it's expensive. It is. What you can do is stock up on jars of mayonnaise. You can use that in baking in place of eggs, and that stores for a long time. So mayonnaise is a really good one because it's eggs anyway. Applesauce can also be used in baking in place of eggs. So you can make biscuits and cake, you know, your stodgy stuff because you're going to want it. You can use applesauce for those things, and then for your savoury stuff you would use mayonnaise, okay? You can also use or stock up on, I can't believe I remembered this one was such a good one. When you go to hotels and you stay over, they often give you individual little portions of milk and butter in little foil packets, okay? They are often left on the side. They're not in fridges. They're just there in a bowl on the side, and you go get as many as you want. And people always take them, like sachets of sauce and stuff. They're long life, and you can keep them in the pantry. You can keep them in a cupboard. So you can, in theory, go on Amazon. Yes, these things are going to cost more. Okay, I want to stress that these types of things cost more, but they're going to last you a long time. So if you need to ration and there's nothing in the shop, you've got some stuff. So the little butters that you get at hotels, your individual butters, they usually have a long shelf life, much longer than your fridge. So if you have to turn your fridge off because you can't afford the electric, you've still got butter. Okay. The other one, it's called ghee. Ghee, ghee. You buy it in jars. It is clarified butter. So someone's boiled the butter, skimmed all the impurities off the top, let it go cold and stored it in jars. That also has a very long life. So you can store ghee in your cupboard in the pantry as well. Okay? Got to get clever. Next up, this is where we're going to get creative. So I've already talked about Alpro almond milk. So when you're looking at plant-based milks, you can get them in their long life, which means you can store them in your pantry, in your cupboards. And they are, you can bulk buy them, buy a box of 8 for £1. They're like £1.23 each on Amazon. With you can do subscribe and save to get it to go down. If you buy 4 cases, you get 5% off. So it ends up coming down to be about £1.23 per carton, as opposed to the shop where it's £2.20 per carton. So you've just saved yourself £1 per carton. Okay, they've got a decent shelf life on them. You can put them in and stock those up and get them delivered. That's dead important that you know that. Next one, milk powder. It's a dried good, so your liquids is always going to last significantly shorter than your dried goods. Milk powder is going to be another one. Same with butter. You can get freeze-dried butter, but again, all of these things cost more money, so just bear that in mind. Eggs. I've talked about eggs. You can get freeze-dried egg. You can get mayonnaise. Okay. So that there has got your butter covered, your milk and your eggs. The last one is cheese. Cheese, there is no way around this. Most people think there is no way around this because cheese has to be kept in a fridge or a freezer, which requires electric. And if you've got those turned off, you've got no way of storing them to last a long time. You can get freeze-dried cheese, but it costs a lot of money. Your other alternative, and this is something I go to. I'm not telling you anything I don't do myself. These are all things I do myself, okay? Cheese. You can buy cheese sauce in a packet, okay? You can normally buy it powdered and you just add your milk to it or your water, okay? You can buy all of those things so you've still got a form of cheese to bring flavour and fat to your meal, okay? So you get those cheese sauce sachets and you keep them stocked up. Bit like you get your peppercorn sauce and your parsley sauce and your cheese sauce. You do that, okay? You also get tins of things like macaroni cheese because it's got the cheese sauce in it, okay? Beans and cheese. We're British people are mad on beans, baked beans. They're not like American beans. We've got beans and cheese, cheesy beans. Stock up on those. And the last one, and it's fucking genius because it's the most flavourful thing in the world and you don't need a lot of it and you can stock up on it and it will last you a long time. You can buy little pots of Italian herb cheese powder that you normally put on your pasta, like your Parmesan. You know what I'm getting at. Tiny pots, and you sprinkle that herby cheese on your pastas, on your bolognese and what have you. those have an extremely, extremely long shelf life, and you can stock up on that as well. And that's not going to go anywhere. So even if you've got no electric, and you've got no gas, and you can't store things, those are your long life alternatives that you need to be looking at. You can also, I just need to mention about egg. If you don't eat eggs, you can get egg replacer. I forget the brand of mine, but I always keep egg replacer, and it's like a powder mix where you just add water to it, and it's got like semolina in it and some other bits of shit. But it's vegan, so that's a good one to know if you are a planthead like me and you have to curb your meat and dairy derivatives. So yeah, there's your little tips. Potatoes can grow year round. You don't have to do anything. You just pick the biggest ones, leave the smallest ones in there, and they'll come up again next year. Mine are just starting to come up. Same with strawberries, and they breed like you would not believe. So if you get the biggest strawberries you can find, and they're big, they're like apples. They grow so fast. They grow so fast. Oh my God. And all you do is just put a little clear bag, sandwich bag or cling film around the actual fruit itself so nothing can eat it. Let it grow, pick it off. Yeah, so I've got to do my veg. I'm just about at the right time to be putting it in. I'm very fucking lucky. I tell you what, despite the fact that my situation is fucking shocking, I am like, I can't tell you how lucky I get. I'm grateful for the brain I've got. I'm grateful for the life that I've had. I'm grateful for my mum and my mama and my uncle teaching me, despite all the fucking arguments. I'm fucking grateful. I am now going to knit some bean mesh because it's going to take time to make it, so I can be doing it whilst I'm sat unable to do other things and still recouping from pain and what have you. I've also been weaning off my medications again, which means I can get by on way less than before, which means I've got a stock in, which means I can make it last. So, you know, that's why it's really good to not splurge and indulge on things just because you've got it. Oh, sweeties, go funny, very quick. Freeze-dried sweeties don't. You can stock up on those. Put them in the loft or in your basement or wherever, in your cellar, out the way, so that you can't binge them, so that they're not in eye view. And you put those away, because if you're having a really shit time with bland meals and you've run out of herbs and spices and seasoning and what have you, one of them is just gonna make your fucking day. You know, even just one a day. You know what I mean? Make sure you've got honey in. Birch tree derivative, I forget the fucking name of it. What did I say? Sugar, honey. We have golden syrup, so we've got treacle. You would probably have maple syrup. All these different types. Make sure you've got different types to keep you going, because you're going to want something sweet. Even if you get like, like you get your hot chocolate powder, some of those has already got the sugar in, you know. Hot chocolate powder goes a long way when you're doing baking and cooking. And if you've just got water and flour left and you need to make pancakes and you put a bit of that in, that's going to be so good for you. You know, a bit of jam, teaspoon of jam. Oh my God, blow your brain. You know what I mean? When you're struggling. So, you know, it's funny. I thought about buying a ration book the other day, a World War II ration book, and seeing if I could survive on it. I think I'm already there. I don't need it. I don't need it. Yeah, your powdered stuff is great. So your latte sachet, I can't say it, sachets. They've already got the milk and sugar in them. You just add water. Your pot noodles and that type of stuff. They don't have a lot of nutrients in them. They're all right for a quick sugar boost because it's carbs, but you're still going to need your nutrients, and that's why you need to get your vitamins in. You need to make sure you've got vitamin C is so important. Vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin C, so that you don't get fucking scurvy, and to process your nutrients properly and make sure that you've got max absorption. Vitamin D, because that's the only thing that keeps your fucking mood up. That's why people get depressed in winter and when they work nights. You need vitamin D. It is really fucking important. I could keep going, obviously. I obviously could, you can tell. But I'm not gonna. I just wanted to give an update on where I'm at, what I'm dealing with, and why I'm curbing my jobs, and what I'm going to be doing next. No, there is no gym in the picture. There will be no gym. There will be no swimming. But I've got my trampoline. I've got my rowing machine. I've got exercise equipment to keep myself busy in all these jobs. So, you know, I'll still be going to my mum's. I can help her with her stuff. You know, it's not like we're short on things to do. I'm not sat here twiddling my thumbs doing the same jigsaw every day. Although I have got 2 jigsaws I've not done yet. I bought them from Old Hucknall Church about a year ago. Half a year ago. Last year, September. So that they could get some money. I bought vegan chocolate fudge cake, a cup of tea, some jigsaws and a book. Because I figured the money was going to a good cause. It's going to the church. But also books, jigsaws, tea and cake. You can't say that's not a good purchase. You'll never be able to say to me that that's not a good purchase. You know, I've got jigsaws I've never done. I've saved them on purpose for when I'm totally fucked and there's nothing to do and I've got to sit there and do something. See? I've seen the fox this morning. I scared him off by mistake. I scared him down Anastasia, so I chucked him. I haven't really got anything to spare, but I chucked him some bread. He's been mopping up some eggs that I put on the garden and mice. When I've been catching mice, he always comes to do a bit of clear up. I know he's been, because he leaves me some little turds, hedgehogs under my bush as well. So he's been coming out and leaving me some lovely presents. Everyone's coming. If push comes to shove and I need to hunt, at least I've got him, which is an absolutely disgusting thought, and it's not going to be anytime soon. But if the world goes to shit, then it's there, innit? Oh, I was going to talk to you about meat. Meat. Buy things like hot dogs in jars, dried meat like jerky, tinned meat like spam and ham fritters and tuna in brine. And if you can stomach oily fish, I can't, but if you can stomach it, get your oily fish like your sardines and your mackerels, and you stock up on your tins. That's dead important. Dried if you can get it. You can also buy freeze-dried chicken and beef. Again, very expensive, but it lasts like 25 years. If you are a vegetarian vegan, you're going to want to look at vegan protein powder, because you're going to need to get protein from somewhere. And if you've not got beans, or you run out of beans, because beans is going to be your main source of protein, if you run out, you're going to need protein powder. You can get, it's called Vegan Gains protein powder, and it's pea protein. And you can get big, massive 5-kilogram buckets of the stuff, and it stores for a very long time because it's powder. So that's also an option. If you've got a dehydrator, you'll be picking your bits and bobs and going foraging, and then you use your dehydrator, which is going to cost electric, bear that in mind, and you dry everything and store it. But yeah, meat, you can get away with having tinned stuff, dried stuff like jerky, and hot dogs in jars. And for vegan, vegetarian people, you would have vegan gains protein powder and your boatload of tinned beans and dried beans and lentils and chickpeas. So there you go. That's my last tip. I'm going to go because this one's a long one today. I'm going to go make some mesh. And now I've gone over all my numbers, I don't feel it's going to be fucking horrible. But when I've got a plan, I can rationalise and I can think and get clear on stuff. So, you know, it's like having to cross rapids and there's no bridge and you've not got a boat. How are you going to do it? You don't just jump in, do you? Or sit there crying, losing your shit. You know, I need to get across. I need to figure out how to get across. Once I've figured out that plan and I know what I'm doing and I know what materials I've got and how long it's going to take, and you know, and you always make sure you've got multiple plans, multiple options, because you never know. One of these has to work, and then I feel all right. I'm still annoyed that I'm being put in this position, but I feel good because I am my own survival kit, and I tell this to everybody: you are your own survival kit. Everything you need is within you. You just have to remember how to use it, and you've probably not had to use it at all or for a very long time. It's only when you live very poor or are in wars that you have to think about these things. You know? Yeah. Hopefully everyone has a good day. Look after yourself. Be safe. Candles produce a lot of heat. So in the evenings when it's cold, confine yourself to one room, cover all the doors with curtains because it keeps the heat in. Yeah, think about medieval times. They had tapestries all over the stone walls to keep the heat in. You make sure you've got curtains. That's why I've got thermal curtains on all my doors, look. Hot box a room, a couple of candles, even tea light candles goes a long way. You've got natural light, keep them somewhere safe, and it warms it up quick. So if you have to confine yourself to your bedroom, for example, you wouldn't sit downstairs to warm up that room to then leave it to go upstairs to a cold bedroom. So what you do is you just do what my mama used to do, which is spend 6 months of the year, the coldest ones, in the warmest room that you've got, which would be a box room or your bedroom, and you would heat just that one room and keep that one room warm. So you put your layers on, you have your curtain on your door, you've got your blankets, you use, and because it's a small space, that's why it's good to have a smaller bedroom, because it's a small space, it'll heat up quick. You know, use blankets or anything like that to cover doors if you haven't got curtains or anything like that. Yeah. And then you've got natural light and you get warm. Yeah. Just letting you know, that's what we've done. That's what we do. So there you go. There's your tips. Have a lovely day.